Now, from our family perspective, nobody in our family has ever took on the venture or took the opportunity to open a
Mm.
business, and we look at it as a family business. So we want to be able to create something that could be passed down to our daughter. So hopefully, at some point, she doesn't have to depend on her parents or depend on other people for her to be employed. That she can be employed on her own.
Hi, welcome everybody. My name is Tyler Gibson, host of the Orlando podcast. With me here today is Michael Vaz, owner of Chic N Cone, and he's also got a really interesting background in what he does. So we're going to let him talk a little bit about that. But before we dive into all of that, Michael, I wanted to start by asking, why do you do what you do?
Well, first of all, it's a long story, but I'm going to give you the short version. I'm a former nonprofit professional, former executive. I ran an organization in New York City. Me and my wife decided to change careers per se, and we wanted to open up a restaurant. We wanted to apply our skill sets in providing a great food, chicken in a waffle cone, a modern spin, a remix of chicken and waffles. Who doesn't love chicken and waffles? But now we're making it more convenient, making it more portable. It comes in a variety of signature sauces from sweet to savory to spicy. Now, within our business, we continue to operate through a nonprofit lens because we are former nonprofit professionals and we still value the community and care for the community that we serve and work in. So we will continue to do that, even though we switch gears, but we still applying the same skill sets and working with nonprofits across Central Florida and in Winter Park. And we're going to continue to do that, even though we change careers, but we want to offer up a great service, a great food that we know everybody loves. Chicken in a waffle
That's
cone.
really interesting. I was saying before we started recording this that I haven't tried it yet, but I really want to, so I'm probably going to need to do that later this week. But I want to go back and
But invite is
oh,
always open.
great. I want to go back and ask, what is it that brought you here to Central Florida? You mentioned that you were serving as in the nonprofit sector in New York, and that you decided to make a change. So, what was it that ended up bringing you guys here? And tell me, I'd like to learn a little bit more about what it is that you guys do, operating as a nonprofit business, and how that looks and works. But let's start with what brought you here to Central Florida.
Well, we just want to experience the sun and the friendliness of Florida. The air is clean. The people are friendly. Maybe it's the sun, but since we've been in Florida, since we've been in Central Florida, the people we ran across, and there's been maybe dozens, hundreds of people that we ran across. People have been so friendly, so helpful, and just happy. Just it's a change. It's a breath of fresh air when you can walk around and meet people, or you don't even know people, and people saying, "Hey, how you doing? How can I help? I love what you're doing." Those things mean a lot to me, and they make an impact in what we do. We always had the notion of coming to Central Florida. Me and my family, we every year it's a family tradition. We always vacation to Florida around the wintertime, as you would call snowbirds. We would come down to Central Florida and utilize some of the theme parks and just enjoy just the atmosphere, the surroundings. And it was a few years ago we decided to say, hey, you know what? We're going to make it our mission to get to Central Florida. And finally, last year, we made the leap. It was a big leap to come to Central Florida, not really knowing too many people, even though my wife has family connections to family in Pensacola. But in the Central Florida area, we really didn't know anybody. So we just took the leap. We felt it was a good leap. And I just only regret that I have is I wish we would have did it maybe a few years
Sure.
earlier. But we love it down there. We love the people, great people such as yourself. We love it
Yeah.
down there. And I don't think I'm ever
That's so
done.
interesting. Similarly,
Mm-hmm.
I came to college here in Central Florida in Lakeland when I was a younger man, and then moved away. and it wasn't until many years later that I ended up coming back. Much like yourself, I don't really have family in the region, or at least I didn't when I moved here. I had a couple of friends from college, and that was about it. And I couldn't agree more that the people here in Central Florida are just some of the nicest and most genuine people that you'll end up coming across. So That's really cool. Tell me a little bit about Chic N Cone. How long have you guys been open? How's business been? And then we'd really love to hear how it is that you guys are operating as a nonprofit, or how does that come into play with what you guys are doing today?
Well, we fell in love with Chic N Cone back in 2021. We went to a grand opening in New York City of a Chic N Cone in New York, and we loved it. We loved the concept. Who doesn't love chicken in a waffle cone? Who doesn't love chicken and waffles? And we discovered how unique this concept was. And then with the organization Chic N Cone, we see that they did a lot of work in nonprofits too, which kind of draws to them. Now, Chic N Cone is, like I mentioned earlier, it is the modern spin on chicken and waffles. We make it more portable, and we offer 7 signature sauces, ranging from sweet to spicy. We feel that there's something for everybody's taste palette, whether you like it sweet, whether you like it savory, or whether you like it spicy. So far, business has been great. We've been open for approximately 3.5 months now, going on 4 months, and we've garnered the support of the Winter Park and Central Florida community, which we appreciate. We try to offer a unique concept on chicken, a different spin on it, with great customer service. It's a family-run business, so we take a lot of pride on how we prepare our food, the cleanliness of the establishment, and the customer service. Now, as far as from the nonprofit angle, this is a for-profit business. So what I mean by we operate through a nonprofit lens, we want to continue to support communities and vulnerable community members throughout Winter Park and Central Florida in any way that we can, in providing resources, guidance, because me and my wife, we are former executives in the nonprofit world. So we wanted to lend a helping hand to those who may need it most. And we do that in a variety of ways. We participate in program advisory committees, provide in-kind financial resources to certain nonprofits in the organization, in the community, and we work with several ranks. We work with Black Architects in the Making, or BAM for short. We work with the Hannibal Heritage Square Center in Winter Park. We work with the Fain House in Orlando, and we also work with JFS Orlando, which provides food pantries to those who may need food or who are food insecure. It has been a great ride so far, and we continue to operate within the passion that we love, as well as serving a great product that we hope that everybody comes to love and trust.
So you said it's a family-operated business. I'd like to dig into that a little bit. What sort of unique challenges would you say there are when you're operating a family business, as opposed to just operating a business where you're hiring strangers to work for you? Are there any unique challenges that you face related to that?
Well, I would say, yeah, I think me and my wife, we butt heads sometimes. Things can get a little bit more personal because we take a lot of pride in our business. This is not just a job that you're working for somebody else. This is something that we're operating. We have to know from A to Z everything, and we have to be on top of everything. So sometimes disagreements come, healthy disagreements, healthy debates come, as far as how we should do this, how we should do that. But at the end of the day, it's all love between the family. It's me and my wife that run it. My daughter, from a distance, she participates. She's a special education teacher in New York. So she comes down, and she just left. Sad to say, she just left a few days ago. She was here all summer with us, working within the family business. So we're trying to create a legacy, not just for our family, but for our daughter as well.
Legacy. That's such a powerful word. I find myself thinking a lot about that. I'm a father, but my daughter is much younger. She just turned 3, actually. And I find myself thinking about...
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
I find myself thinking about legacy a lot. Tell me a little bit about what legacy means to you. That word can be really loaded. So, what does that mean to you? And I know that you said that you came here for the son, and that you partnered with Chic N Cone because you believed in how they operated and represented the community there locally in New York. Aside from getting here for the son, I can't help but feel like there might have been more in your choice to do this tied to that legacy piece. So I'd really like to know what that means.
Well, I think that's a great question. As a parent, you always want your child or children to probably do better than you've done. You try to do great things in your life, but you want to pass certain things down to your children or your child to see that when you're not here anymore, that they have the skills, the knowledge, and the abilities to keep moving on. And in this case, we want to do something more. Now, from our family perspective, nobody in our family has ever took on the venture or took the opportunity to open a business, and we look at it as a family business. But we want to be able to create something that could be passed down to our daughter. So hopefully, at some point, she doesn't have to depend on her parents or depend on other people for her to be employed. That she can be employed on her own. So we still continue to work closely with her, and we want to create that legacy moving forward. Most of us, we come from a generation that parents say, hey, get a job, make some money, and get out the house. Right now, we want to change the narrative. We want to prepare our children. So hopefully at some point, they can pass us, and that's what we want. And hopefully our children's children or grandchildren, they will continue that legacy and pass them and pass on the knowledge that they've attained over time or through generations. And there's no better time to start it than now. And the opportunity's here. There's a lot of changes what's going on throughout the country, throughout the economy, and what's considered family. So we need to create and change the narrative a little bit and prepare our children for what's next, and hopefully they can do better.
Yeah, that's so that's right where I am at too. I think my family didn't have traditional work. My dad was a minister, so it was a little bit different. But I never felt like I fit the mold personally for being a great employee. I mean, I was a good employee. I worked hard, but I think after a certain amount of time, I would just get burnt out because I was working really hard for somebody else and not necessarily seeing the benefits. So I totally get that. I'm curious if there was a specific moment in time where you had that realization that working for somebody else wasn't something you wanted to do forever, and more importantly, that you wanted to teach your children the benefits and the power of creating your own way. Was there a moment in time where you saw that, or was there a series of progressions that happened? I know that part of your background that I read was working with youth and people that had food insecurity. So were there things within that environment that you were dealing with that kind of triggered some of that for you, or was there a special moment in time?
Well, I would say a lot of how we looked at this, the pandemic, I think, changed the narrative of a lot of people from where they're going. Even though I was the executive director of a nonprofit organization, I was the face of the organization, I still had to report to a 12-member board of directors. And once the pandemic hit, funding streams were beginning to be cut. And I remember back in 2020, when I had to get on a Zoom call because everybody was quarantined, I had to get on a Zoom call and tell 60 of my employees that they were being laid off. And the light bulb went off in my head that nobody's job is safe right now. Money can be cut and you're just as expendable as anybody else. And then tomorrow they can hire the next person. So we felt that even though I was the executive director, my wife was an executive, had our organization, nobody's job is safe when you're working for somebody else. Once funding streams get cut, they can either cut you, cut hours, cut salary, And we did not want to continue to have that over our heads, wondering, are we going to have a job tomorrow? So we said, you know what, we're going to work on our own steam and make things happen. And then that's when the wheels started to turn, and we started to look into what can we do? What can we do to apply some of our skill sets in running an organization, managing employees, and still doing things for the public good and serving our community. And we felt that Chicken Cone served that deal as far as what we were looking for in regards to continuing to work for the community, but at the same time, we're working for ourselves. And we could be as successful as we want to be as long as we work hard and we put the energy and the time into doing it. Chicken Cone was the vehicle for us. We was very impressed with the leadership that we met with, and how they looked at things, how they looked at the future, and we wanted to be a part of that. The community portion was very, very important in this. Me and my wife been in the nonprofit industry for over 20 plus years in various capacities, whether we're working with youth, working with families, and again coming down here to Central Florida and opening Chicken Cone. We was able to blend both of those passions in one, and we will continue to.
That's so great. So, obviously, you decided on Chicken Cone. When you guys started thinking about opening up your other business, were there any other opportunities or franchises that you guys had considered?
We looked at a variety of different options, and we were looking at the cost involved, the leadership, doing a lot of background, and I'm not going to get into who we was looking at, but some of the the franchises, and we looked into the background, did research, had shady people at the top, or you see various news reports come out about some unethical practices, which would be considered immoral. And I think we're very moral and ethical people, and we want to continue to do that. And some of the opportunities that we looked at did not fit the mold for us, whether it was the type of leadership or how they looked at things, or it was just the point that they're just looking to just get your money, but not providing the appropriate support and the proper support, especially for new individuals in the restaurant industry, in trying to really navigate this. And it's been a wild ride, navigating it, learning. It's been something, but it's been exciting as well. And I don't regret the move at all. And I'm glad that was.
That's great. It was to come to you and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about opening a franchise. What are 3 pieces of advice or 3 things that they should be asking any franchise that they would be considering?"
Well, I think one of the first things that the person needs to consider, that they need to be very serious and committed.
Hey, before we go any further, if you're enjoying this content, please like and subscribe so you can help us get the word out about these amazing people and businesses here in the Orlando area. Don't miss out on upcoming episodes and help out the show. Now let's get back to it.
Things are not going to go your way in the beginning. They need to accept that. It's not something that you're going to immediately reap the benefits. It's a chess game, not checkers. You have to think long term, and you have to strategize. Make sure you have the necessary funding to do it, whether you go through grants, loans, or gifts from friends or family, but make sure you're prepared, at least for the first 6 months, to weather the storm as you're trying to promote your business, because a lot of your expenses are going to go, a lot of overhead, marketing, etc. And there's going to be a lot of expenses to that. And you need to be prepared for that. You need to be able to weather the storms, because you need to be strong through this, because even though we've been open for 3.5 months, you have your ups and downs, but you have your mostly good days. But you need to be prepared, and you need to be able to pivot when you need to. You may say, hey, one thing may be working, but now it's no longer working. Can we do something else? So you got to be able to pivot. So I would say, just in summary, be sure that you're ready to go through the ups and downs, be committed, have the right funding, have the right mindset, because it takes a mindset to do this. You have to think as a leader, not a follower. Unfortunately, many people, especially with the educational system, we're trained to be followers, not leaders. We're trained to take orders. We're trained to follow directions. But you need to be able to bring out that leader within yourself to be able to manage all aspects of the company, whether it's managing people, working with customers, managing budgets, inventory, the physical space. You need to be able to work within all those realms. Now, nobody's going to be the perfect candidate as far as all those things. So it's a continuous learning experience, and you have to be open to constructive criticism and opening to learning new things and applying what you learned. And we cannot continue to operate within the same mindset prior to coming into the business. You have to change your mindset. Mindset is probably the most important part of this, is the mindset into running your own business. And I'm sure as a real estate person yourself, you probably know a lot of these things. You went through it. You know, you're going to have your good times, you're going to have your bad times, but you stick with it. And you have the mindset to succeed. And that's what it takes. Everything begins with a thought. And then you go from there. So if you're confident, if you're already thinking the good thoughts like, hey, I'm going to make this happen, I'm going to see this through, then more than likely you'll be in that position where you will succeed. So I think those will be my
Nice. Yeah, mindset is so huge. I couldn't agree more. I guess if somebody's listening to this and they're like, well, I don't really know if I've got the right mindset, but I'd like to. What would you suggest they do? Any resources, books, or people they should watch, look, follow? What would you tell somebody that wants to start a business, but they've only ever had that employee training, right? That employee mentality. Where would you point them to help them start to develop that proper mindset?
Well, I would say everything begins within yourself. You need to ask yourself, do you want to do this? Then do the appropriate research in regards to the industry or the specific business that you're looking to get into. You need to learn about all aspects and what it may entail. Now, when we looked at the restaurant business, we looked at every aspect of it, but it's very different when you in it live. Once you get in it, and applying what you've learned, it can be very different. So I think a great resource to look at things, a great book would be Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The 48 Laws of Power. I think those are things that if you want to look to get that mindset as far as finance, how to be a leader, and try to encompass all of that, I think those are two great books, two great resources to look at, as well as looking at your local chambers of commerce, small business development centers, wherever you're located in your city or town. So those are things. And I think finally, you need to be around people who have the same mindset you have. I always tell my daughter, if you're around 9 broke people, most likely you're going to be the 10th. So if you're around people who are talking the same language about business, how to create, how to develop, then most likely you're going to start to develop that mindset and trying to keep up with that crowd. As far as, hey, we're talking about doing this today, we're talking about doing that, and you're having conversations that is developing that business mindset, most likely you're going to be doing the same thing. You're going to say, hey, you know what, maybe I need to do that too. So don't be that 10th broke person hanging around 9 broke people. Be around 9 people who are thinking about business, talking about business, and more than likely you will be the 10th. So be around the same type of people who are talking the same language that you are, and you will be in a better position to succeed.
So where are some places that you connected with those people that helped you elevate your mindset and help you move into that position of I'm going to take control of my destiny and start my own business and build a legacy? Where did you start to try to connect with those people that were going to help you elevate your mindset?
Well, first, a lot of it started with some of my childhood friends. Two of my best friends from childhood, known since I was 5 years old, 40 years of friendship, and still friends to this day. Um, one of them started. One of them started a security company, and another one started a moving company and opened up two restaurants. Now, that's just a small sample. So when you're around people like that and you're talking about creating, you're talking about building, um, then you start to develop that mindset. Now, I come from, I grew up in a New York City housing public development. I lived in a two-bedroom apartment with seven people. This is how I grew up, and this is how a lot of my friends grew up as well. But once you break that mold, you break that circle as far as living in that certain way, and then you be around other people that start to talk that. Now you start to look at things differently. Like, hey, you know what? This is not the end all. This is not this. This doesn't have to define my life or where I'm going. So when you begin to connect with some individuals, and you begin to connect with small business development centers, you connect with chambers of commerce. Now you're starting to interact and connect with people and partner with people who are talking the same language. Even as the executive director of a nonprofit, and part of my job is to market the organization. So you're working with for-profit and nonprofit leaders alike, trying to solicit funds to build the organization and for us to continue building services. Again, when you're talking and when you're networking and when you're around these people and you're having certain conversations, the mindset continues to develop more, saying, hey, you know what, I can do this. So as executive director, I managed a $2.7 million organization. And when you're doing things like that, you're saying, hey, if I'm managing $2.7 million, why can't I open something for myself and manage that business when I have knowledge of human resources, managing people, providing the customer service, et cetera, social media. So when you start to be around those people again, whether for-profit, non-profit, friends or family who are doing certain things, then you're going to start to think like, hey, I can do this too, and you start to develop that. And this is what brought me and my family here to Florida, and for us to open up a chicken cone, and hopefully we will be able to continue because we do have that mindset to succeed.
Yeah, that what a powerful story of literally changing your legacy and changing your family tree. That's what I call it, changing your family tree, right? Where it's one way, and you just decide I'm gonna grow a branch this way, and I'm gonna make it different for the next generation. That's super powerful. There's no housing projects here in Orlando, really. But there are certainly areas in Orlando where you see the same kind of living conditions that you described, where there's a bunch of people packed in a small house and they're paying a ridiculous amount of rent. If one of those young people is listening to this episode today and they're inspired to go and do something, what's the first thing you would suggest, or the first person or organization that you would suggest that they would reach out to just start a conversation and to start being around people that will help them realize that going to high school, going to college, and getting a job isn't necessarily the American dream? There's nothing wrong with it as far as I'm concerned, but it's certainly not going to, I shouldn't say certainly, it's likely not going to create the lasting legacy that you're looking to create. So if they wanted to do that same thing and change their family tree, what's one person or resource or program that you would suggest they check out here in the area?
Well, I'm not gonna say any one particular program, but I would say for our young people, I think they need to seek out a mentor, a role model, who can be the change agent in their life. Whether it could be myself, or it could be somebody else, maybe a teacher, maybe a relative, or maybe a family friend. But look for a role model, somebody who can assist in changing what you're looking at. Because at some point you need to do a self-evaluation. Is this what I want my life to be moving forward for the next 40, 50, 60 years? Is this the surroundings, or am I going to right now be the change agent and break that cycle of poverty? Now, education is the number one thing that will get people out of poverty if they utilize the education correctly. So that would be the first thing. You need to get your education. Now, education is not the end all, but it is the basis and the foundation of how you move forward. Look for an industry or something that you love to do, whether it could be cooking, it could be helping people, it could be, you could be somebody who's an accountant or an investment banker. Look at what you're interested in and try to connect with people who would help facilitate that. Whether if it's if you're interested in becoming a banker, maybe do some type of internship with a bank or another organization, or volunteer opportunities. Now, networking is key, and building relationships is key. It's not enough just to have the education and the skills to succeed. You need to know people. You need to foster relationships. You need to create bonds that will last a long time. But it all starts with the mindset again. You need to be around those people. So if you have an interest, try to align yourself with those people who have similar interests in you. Now, when I was coming up, I always had a love for helping people. So what did I do? I volunteered at organizations. I was an intern at organizations because I wanted to help people and I wanted to develop a skill. And then prior to me getting into the restaurant business, restaurants in the local area, I used to have conversations with them, owners on certain things. There was a staff member in my organization who owned the restaurant, but they did work at our organization. So that was somebody who I connected with and received a lot of guidance, a lot of advice, a lot of feedback on how to go about things. So you need to align yourself with individuals who have similar thoughts, similar interests, and those are the things that will help further you along. But it all starts again with the mindset. The mindset is very important. Do your research. You have to do your due diligence on everything. Right now, more and more, and you probably see it on social media and just on the internet in general, everybody has some type of quick rich scheme. I see right now, you probably see it too. If you're interested in this free grant, text me now or inbox me now, or you can make this amount of money in 2 days if you trade in Forex stocks and stuff like that. The real world doesn't work like that. So you got to be able to decipher between what is fake and what is real. This is a real issue, and I think a lot of people get caught up in that. So you have to do your due diligence, and it starts with the mindset. And you always have to remember, it's not a checkers game; it's a chess game. So you have to look at the long term, because if things were so easy, Tyler, a lot more people would be doing it. It was that easy. So if you really want it that bad, then you have to fight your way.
Yeah, that's so many great little tidbits and snippets in there. Finding a mentor early, volunteering at organizations or as part of businesses or doing internships and with things that you like. I think it's so powerful what you said, to find something that you like, that you're naturally drawn to, and to dig into that. That's kind of how I got started where I'm at. I really liked real estate and real estate investing. I just thought it was super fascinating, and I couldn't get enough, and I was just constantly trying to consume as much information as I could to try to learn as much as I possibly could until I finally jumped in. But even I had a limiting belief, as a young man, that I was a terrible student and I wouldn't be able to even pass the test here in the state of Florida, which was all a lie. And I think that goes back to that mindset and just realizing, what are you telling yourself on a daily basis? What are the words that you're repeating back to yourself? What are you telling other people about yourself, about what you can and can't do? And it's just so powerful, the way that we talk to ourselves and that mindset that we develop for ourselves. Can you Can you think of who that mentor or person was when you were younger that pushed you to get out there and volunteer or intern or mentored you? Was it a teacher? Was it somebody else that you knew, or was it just the friends that you mentioned that were entrepreneurial from the get-go?
Well, I always say you have in your life, in everybody's life, there are 4 or 5 moments that can point you in trajectory that you need. And I tell this to anybody that I meet. One of the most powerful moments was getting accepted into college and leaving my neighborhood. I went to school about 8 hours away in Buffalo, New York. So we're in New York City. We're in the southern tip. Buffalo is in the northern tip, bordering Canada in Niagara Falls. Getting away from the environment, because I refuse to be a product of my environment, that was a moment. Some early mentors, I would say, would be first and foremost my mother. Very strong woman. She had got sick when she was about 30. She had to be on kidney dialysis for a number of years until she tragically passed some time ago. But she was one of the key figures in helping me to develop a strong mindset to succeed and to be a leader. In college, I remember the woman very well, and she's still a Facebook friend of mine, and that was so many years ago. Her name was Sherry Wilmus. She was one of the commissioners at the Department of Probation, and she got me into wanting to work with youth. And I still communicate with her to this day. And that goes back to what I said, developing the relationships, lifelong bonds with people. And then many of the friends, 2 of the friends that I mentioned previously, who became entrepreneurs, who came from nothing and turned nothing into something, is what they did. And I felt that I had to be better. I had to be better than what my environment called for. I had to be better than what society would expect of me, and come from the environment that I did. And I had to work that much harder. So I give a lot of credit to those individuals, and to my wife as well. Been with my wife for 30 years. We met in college, and she is probably one of the keys in turning my mindset around. Strong woman, very educated woman. She tells me things that I don't want to hear sometimes, but I have to take it. But she always had my best interest, and she gives me those hard talks that I need to hear. Sometimes when I don't want to hear it, but I have to hear it. I need to hear it. So she has been the key. She has been that one constant in my life for the last 30 years. So those are just a mix of individuals. That's the village per se, that is raising their son, or raising the person that they want to succeed. So those are many of the individuals, I would say, that played an integral role, key role, for me to get to where I'm at, and for us for me and my family to thrive in what we're doing.
Awesome. Yeah, you're so right. You need to have somebody in your life. For you, it's your spouse. I think for me, it's also my spouse, who will ask me the hard questions, and tell me when they see me going the wrong direction. You got to have 1 or 2 people in your life that will bring your attention when you start to get off track. So, great point. We're I want to be respectful of your time, and I appreciate you coming and sharing your story and what you guys are doing. I have one other question. You mentioned the importance of finding a mentor, meeting a mentor. If somebody that's in a field that you want to work in, and you mentioned Sherry getting you involved in volunteering with youth. If I'm a young person listening to this today and I want to go connect, I know who I want to go connect with, but I'm not entirely sure how. Right? I mean, I've always taken the approach of don't just go to somebody and say help me, because they may, but it's not necessarily the most compelling thing when somebody just walks up to you and says, hey, help me, right? So, what would you say is the best way for somebody to approach that mentor or that person that they want to try to connect with so that they can start to elevate themselves? How would you suggest that somebody goes about interacting with that person or that first approach, or how would they get that person to say, I would love for you to come and help me or follow me around, or I'd love to mentor you? What would you suggest people do in order to initiate that or to get that started?
Well, I would think try to connect with organizations within your neighborhood. I'm going to suggest the Boys and Girls Club. That could be a great start because part of their motto is the place for kids. I am a former director at a Boys and Girls Club, so I can speak on it, where they try to teach you good morals, having a strong character, and those would be great places, the YMCA as well, where you can find a mentor. And the Boys and Girls Club, for the most part, is free. You just have to enroll. To be a part of that, you can find a mentor. And many of the boys clubs, I know particularly in Central Florida now, they have entrepreneurial programs in there. They have technology programs. They have STEM programs there. So they have the resources and the tools. You just need to go. You just need to be committed to going and being a part, because there are great people there. There are compassionate people there, people who have empathy, who want to help, who want to serve as a role model. Because in a nonprofit space, we have to wear many hats. Many of us have to serve as the mom, the dad, the uncle, the big brother, the auntie, the big cousin. We have to wear many hats. And to many of the kids that come to many of these places, they are lacking those resources or those people at home that can guide them. So these are great places to start. They do a lot of work readiness programs, entrepreneurial programs, like I said, science-related programs. So the resources are there, but you just have to be committed to going, to showing up, and being a part. You have to get in where you fit in, and you have to play your part. Because before you can reach to that point where you're going to be a leader, you have to be a follower first. So you have to be willing to learn and grasp the information in order for you to get to that point where, you know what, I can lead this, I can do this, I can work with people, I can be fair, I can be compassionate, I can be empathetic to the people I work with and to the people I serve. So it's a journey, it's a learning process, but you have to be patient. Nothing is going to happen overnight. Nothing is going to happen once you snap your fingers. You have to be committed and you have to be dedicated. And that's the only way that is going to work.
Great advice. Great advice. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael, for coming. If people want to connect with you, where's the best place for them to do that?
Well, there's several places. You can look on our website on www.chickenconewinterparkfl.com.
We'll definitely include those in the show notes for folks that want to connect with Michael and Chic N Cone. I think I'm going to make lunch plans a little bit later this week and try to come by and see you guys. So looking forward to that. Any parting words of wisdom that you would like to share with anyone that's listening to this podcast?
I would say, especially for our youth, do not be a product of your environment. Break the cycle. Break the change. Be the change agent that you are. And all it takes is you. All it takes is a thought. All it takes is a change in your mindset. But you have to be willing to do the work. Nobody's going to give it to you. Nobody's going to hand it to you. You have to work hard for it. So if you are dedicated, you are true to the passion of whatever it is you want to do, then you make it happen. Seek out the resources, connect with like-minded people who want to do the same thing, who are doing the same thing, because you can do it. Nothing is impossible. You may look at things and like, well, I don't know if I can do this right now. But you have to look at the long term. You have to play the chess game.
It's not checkers, it's chess.
So believe, because everything starts with That's right. That's right. So you have to believe, and you have to look at the long game, right there. And if you stay dedicated, committed, and patient, patience is very important. Then you will succeed.
Awesome. Awesome. I can't wait to share this with folks. It's going to be so great. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope to see you around town. And if you want to connect with them, all of their information will be in the show notes. Have a great day, and we'll see you around Central Florida.